Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Sangeeta and I'm the founder of Helpsy. Helpsy enables you to find best answers and best experts for your health condition. We are here to help you achieve your best health. And today we are hosting the third of our health series. And In celebration of Women's Day, this month we are focusing on women's health. So our topic today is self-care tips for busy women, and our guest is Alexandra Epple. Alexandra Epple comes with over a decade of experience as a health coach, as a yoga expert, as an Ayurveda practitioner. And having known her for almost a decade and being on this Ayurveda journey together with her, I'm super excited to have her here today because she especially focuses on women's health, especially busy women like you. Even for the men who are joining, do stay on and listen in, because I think most of us can use the tips that are being shared. So welcome, Alex.
Hello, Sangeeta. Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. So before we get started on all the tips, let's first talk about why this topic is so important for us. So let me share with you some scary numbers, all right? So according to American Institute for Stress, they report that between 75% to 100% of the visits to primary care are related to stress-related complaints. So most of the time when we are going to our provider, we are going because of some stress-related problem. And in fact, eating disorders are 10 times more prevalent. 10 times women, we talk about weight. Just think about it, how much is related to stress. 10 times more prevalent in women than men. And there are many, many studies that show that it's related to stress. And to add to this, women suffer up to 40% more mental health problems than men because we are juggling so much between our professional life, our personal life, and so many other aspects of being a woman. So we have 40% more tendency for having mental health conditions like anxiety and depression and other stress-related issues. And the effect of stress on our body is much higher as well, because the stress, it affects our hormones, it affects our menstrual cycle, it affects obesity, it affects the chances of heart problems. So overall, we are more susceptible to stress and the problems of stress, and the impact of the stress is so much higher on us. So luckily for us, we have Alex, who's specialized in this area and has been working with busy women for over a decade now. And she's going to be talking to us about how we can be superwoman, we can achieve all the things we want, and still take good care of our health. So welcome, Alex, again.
Hi, again. I'm still glad to be here.
Let's first start, Alex, with your journey, because I think that's quite interesting and atypical journey that you have.
Yeah, so as you may detect from my name and probably from my accent by now, I'm not born in America, but I actually come from Germany, and I came to the United States in 1999. And I always like to say, I showed up here as a business girl, and I turned into a healer in America. And truly, I came here with a dual business degree from a university in Germany and in Great Britain. And just circumstances brought me to yoga, to Ayurvedic medicine, to Vedic astrology, to body work. So I've been working with men and women, for that matter, for the last 15 years, helping them to be more alive and vibrant in their bodies. And my two main areas of focus is, one, to help women move through menopause more gracefully and naturally. And secondly, and that's our topic today, helping busy career women stay superwoman, but still be healthy. So I'm glad to share some tips and secrets with you today.
Wonderful. And we are so excited to have you here, because I can tell you I need it, and I'm sure many of our viewers can benefit from this as well.
Yeah.
So talking about superwoman and the superwoman role that most of us play, we have so much on our plate, Alex. We're juggling between home and family and career and many, many other things. And oftentimes, or at least sometimes in our life, we find ourselves caught up and feeling that stress and that overwhelm and the impact on our health. When you're tired, you feel like, you just need a break, but you got to push through. And it affects our health. And now with the numbers, we are seeing how much more. How can women manage all these different responsibilities that are called upon us without letting it affect our health? So I guess what I'm asking is, how can I be a superwoman and do it all and be great at everything and for it to not have an impact on my health, so still be able to maintain my health in top condition?
Right. Yeah, this is a really good question, and you described it so well, what's going on. I mean, as women, we are juggling so much. Like, we want to be good at work, a great wife, a great mom, a great lover, a great everything. And you said it right, like, we have everything on our plate and we want to do everything so well. And of course, that creates a lot of pressure and stress for us. And yes, you're right, we want to know, what do we do when our schedules are full to the brim? How can we possibly stay calm and centered and focused? Because as women, we also put that pressure on ourselves that we do everything. And at the same time, we want to be calm and centered and peaceful and loving and caring to all the people around us, right? That's really important to us women.
Yes, very true. It is.
So true, no? And, and if we do all those things that we just described, and we never stop and we keep on going and going and going, that works really well when we're in our 20s and our 30s, because naturally the body still produces a lot of yin hormones. So that means like a lot of nourishing hormones in our body. But come in our 40s and the latest in our 50s, it's really going to hit us if we keep going and going and going, right? So there's some sense of like, we can sense it, like we have to do something about our health. And I want to share a quote with you from Warren Buffett. You know Warren Buffett?
Yes.
Right?
He's a big businessman.
Yeah, right.
And a big investor. So somebody who really knows how to value money and value his time.
Exactly. What do you think he would be thinking about all day long, pretty much? Probably about money, right?
Best managing his money and his time, yeah.
Wouldn't you think that? And actually, the Time magazine interviewed him, and they asked him about his best investment advice. Now, listen what he said. This is a guy who thinks about money or must be thinking about money all day long. But this is what he said. His best investment advice is this: you only get one mind and one body, and it's got to last a lifetime. Now, it's very easy to let them ride for many years. But if you don't take care of that mind and that body, they'll be a wreck 40 years later. Now, what I think is so cool about this quote is that a guy who is a great investor and who must be very busy thinking about his investments all day long is saying, really, the top priority that we should be spending on is our health, mental and physical health. Because, and that is so logical too, because if we are not healthy, what can we accomplish? Pretty much nothing. Just think back to a time when you were sick, even just like a nasty cold. You'd be hanging out in bed. And what would you accomplish during that time that you're sick? Pretty much nothing. Nobody would benefit from you. You wouldn't be able to take care of the husband. You couldn't go to work. You couldn't take care of the children. You couldn't drive them to soccer practice. There's nothing you can do without health. So to answer your question, how can we do everything as Superwoman and still stay healthy? My answer is pretty much this. You have to put your health as a top priority, or at least in the top 3 priority. Because when you are healthy, you can accomplish everything you want to accomplish. You're going to have the energy you need. You're going to have the stamina you need, the love that you need, the care that you need. And really, it starts with you putting health as one of your biggest priorities.
Wow. So what you're saying is that actually to accomplish all the things that we want to accomplish as women, or as any busy person living in today's world, we actually need to put our health as top priority, and that will enable us. That is our driver to achieving all the goals.
Absolutely. You said that very nicely. Yeah. We are the driver. The health is the driver to accomplishing everything we want to accomplish.
So you talked about, the importance of health and self-care. Now, as you know, it's very hard to take out 4 hours from a day to do all the self-care activities or to do everything that's healthy. What are some of the core, if you had to think of what are the main things you think we should be focusing on? So what are the core self-care practices that women should focus on and not let them fall wayside given the number of things we are juggling?
Let me answer it in a broader sense, and then I'll give you really practical tips along the way, right? So if we look at health from an Ayurvedic perspective, we're talking about there are 3 pillars of health, really. And if we are taking care of these 3 pillars, then our body and mind will be healthy and functional, so we can do all the work that we need to do in the world. So I'm going to share those 3 with you. So the first pillar of health is food. So there's 3 components to food. The first one is what you eat. And I want to make this really plastic for you. So if you imagine an apple right here. If I eat that apple, put it in my mouth, it mixes with saliva, the digestion is starting in the mouth, it goes down your trachea, it goes down into your stomach. At that point in time, that apple is actually still outside of our body. It's not really part of our body yet. But then it moves on into the small intestine, and it's still not really part of our body yet. It's just like inside the body, but it's not part of the body yet. But what happens in the small intestine is that the apple is being absorbed into the bloodstream, and the apple then, or the essence of the apple, that then gets circulated throughout our bodies, and the apple then gets used in the cells for food, right? So the cells can do their work. So now the apple has become part of you. So which means everything that you see about me here, my hand, my skin, my face, my hair, my nails, everything is made up of the things that I've eaten and that I have drunk, okay? So now imagine why it is so important, what you eat is so important, is because depending on what this piece of apple is it an organic apple? That is going to become me. If it's an organic carrot, that's going to become me. If you're eating hormone-laden beef, that's going to be you. If you're eating veggies that have been sprayed with pesticides, that's going to become you. So when I really started to realize, oh my God, whatever I am putting in my mouth and I'm absorbing into my body, that's going to be me. So really, what we eat is super important, right? So I know that there's a lot of notion, especially if you live in California or some kind of very health-oriented place. It's already very prevalent that organic food is a good idea, right? So one of the simplest tips is just eat good quality food. Go to places where when they're selling, go to a farmer's market. Go to places where things are really fresh, where they're selling organic food. And even Safeway or Albertsons are now selling organic food. So it's becoming less and less of an issue to actually buy good quality food these days.
Absolutely, very true. It's becoming easier for us to find good quality food. And I think there's so much literature out there, Alex, about, what we can eat. Of course, some of it is confusing, but still there is a lot of information. And I know many of our viewers are so savvy in looking up and keeping up with a lot of those health tips about what to eat. I would love for you to shed more light on how to eat. I think that's an area that we don't talk about as much. And I know that that is one of the core things we have learned about when it comes to food.
Yeah. Before I talk about how to eat, let me one step back and talk a little bit more about what to eat, because I wanted to share one thing actually. So like you said, many people are very savvy around the thing like what to eat, and they're kind of digging in there. But there's one thing. So if you're experiencing a lot of dryness in your body, you want to counteract it with something that is moist. So if you're feeling dryness in the form of, you might feel that in the form of gas or bloating or dryness of the skin, dryness in general in your body, you want to eat moist foods. So soups and stews are going to be really good for you. So that's something that you can focus on about what you eat. And then there's also, if you have a lot of fire in your body in the form of inflammation or skin rash or heartburn, heart acidity, do eat things that are cooling to the body, like cucumbers or non-spicy food, so more bland food. If you're experiencing a lot of dampness in the body in the form of mucus, then you get to eat popcorn and crackers and all that kind of stuff, because you actually want to dry up that mucus in your body. So just something that I wanted to add real quick before I now move on to your other question about how to eat. Like you said, we already kind of really savvy about what to eat, but like how to eat. So often in Ayurveda, what we say is that it is better to eat a McDonald's meal in a park, surrounded by people we love, in a casual manner, really enjoying what we eat, versus a super organic meal that's from the best restaurant in town, that has grown their own food, but we eat it on the go, in the car maybe.
Wow, so you are telling me that I can eat McDonald's and and that would still be healthier if I ate it correctly, or if I focused on how I ate it, than if I ate a very healthy food, but I was not in the right frame of mind.
Exactly.
I know, isn't it amazing what that holds? And I just wanted to also remind our viewers, I think, Alex, you brought up such a great point about very simple tip about how we can choose the food that will help us, and we will make sure that we try and send you some kind of notes or some kind of summary which captures this key point that you brought up, Alex. So yes, back to you about McDonald's food.
That is, of course, not to say that McDonald's food is very healthy for us. But what this metaphor is saying is that it is so important to actually take time for your food, because the body cannot digest if you are not preparing the body for it. So if you're eating on the go, the mind is somewhere else. It's kind of like, oh, I gotta work on my emails, or I gotta drive, and you're eating while you're driving. There's no awareness around your food. So there's a few things that happen. First of all, you never are satisfied with the food. You are not noticing how much you're eating, so you might be overeating because of it. And the body is just simply not prepared for it, because when we are actually taking time to sit down for a meal, and it doesn't have to be so long, you don't have to make it a really drawn out affair, but even just 15 minutes, stepping away from your desk and sitting somewhere away from your work area and focusing on your food. Because wherever the attention goes, wherever your mind goes, that's where your, what we say, life force goes. So the life force is what helps us digest our food. So if our mind is on answering emails, when you're focused, answering emails, all of your energy will go into the mind and very little will be in the stomach, helping the body to digest the food. So how we eat is incredibly important.
Yes, very true. It is so important. So let's remember to take some time out when we are eating our food. It doesn't mean that things can wait. I think they can wait 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour. So for us as busy women, if you are in your office, step away from your desk, take a few minutes, just go down to the park or go down somewhere away from your desk, away from your emails, your phone, and just take the time to focus on the food, and you come back refreshed and ready to take on.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent.
Great.
Yeah, so this was the second part, right? So this was the second part of food. There's a third one, right? So the third one is, so the first one was what to eat. Second one is how to eat. And the third one is how well you digest your food. That is, again, extremely important because you can eat the best food on the planet, but if you don't digest it well, the body won't be able to absorb it. And we are creating toxins in the body. So in Ayurvedic medicine, the digestive system is so important. It is really the foundation of everything else in our health. So if we don't digest the food, and that goes back to how we eat it. So if we're eating it on the go, we're not really taking time, we're not really having gratitude for the food. The food that we're eating, we won't digest it. And so we're creating toxins. And of course, that's not what we want, because then our immune system suffers and then we get more diseases that we don't want.
Wonderful. So to summarize, what you said is when it comes to food, there are three main aspects: is what you eat, how you eat, and how well you digest what you eat.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think that's something for all of us to keep in mind when we are thinking about food and our health.
Yep. So I told you there was 3 pillars of health, right? I only shared one with you so far, and that was food. So the second one is sleep. And sleep, well, we probably all know that if we don't sleep, we are becoming probably very bitchy the next day. Or if we don't become bitchy, we're probably not getting very much accomplished, right? So getting a really good night's rest is so important. And so the Center for Disease Management actually says that sleep has become a health epidemic. People don't sleep very well. Either they don't fall asleep or they don't stay asleep very well. And so if you look at what science says in terms of how much we should sleep, they are averaging 8 hours. So they're saying if you sleep 8 hours, you've slept enough. And I think that is, that's a nice number to wrap our minds around. But I think we can look at this in a more differentiated way, because it really depends on how much sleep you need, depends on, well, how much have you done that day? Have you had a sedentary day, or have you done a lot of exercise? Have you had a lot of stress that day? What kind of things have you accomplished? Were you running around without taking a break throughout the entire day? Have you had a trauma in your life? Have you had a surgery? All of those things require you to sleep differently. So if you Ayurveda looks at it in a little bit a different way. They say there's 3 different body types in Ayurveda. And the one body type that is very skinny and lanky, they need the most amount of sleep. Now, if you're a body type that is more full and luscious and unctuous, have like a lot of curves and are just very voluptuous, you need the least amount of sleep. And if you're somewhere in between, well, you need a medium amount of sleep. So you really, when I think about sleep, what I ask myself, have I slept enough so that when I wake up, I feel deeply rested? And this is really what determines how much sleep you need. And the funny thing is, one of my Ayurveda teachers, she once said, You know what? Our society is so epidemically sleep deprived. Most of us probably need to sleep for 6 months or a year straight, and then we are going to be fine again. And I think she's so right, you know, like in my practice, when I see my clients, I mean, this is really what I see. People don't sleep enough. And if you look at some statistics also, there was a statistic done, and they were comparing how much people slept 50 years ago versus now. And the difference is 25%. So it means like 50 years ago, people slept 25% more than we are sleeping now. So say the average sleep is 8 hours, 8 hours back then, 50 years ago. Now it would be only 6 hours. I think that's drastic. That's incredible, no?
That's quite amazing how much the amount of sleep that we think we need has changed. We used to sleep so much more before, and now I think it's actually considered tough to sleep less. I don't need 8 hours of sleep. I need 4 hours of sleep and I'm okay. And that's not true, because actually we all need a lot of sleep, and that helps us to function well. I think you brought up a very, very interesting point that we don't talk a lot about, is about the different amount of sleep that different people need, right? So depending on what you have dealt with in your day, if you've dealt with a lot of stresses and a lot of challenges, you might actually need more sleep. And if you had a relaxed day, you might be okay not needing a lot of sleep. So I think that's something for most of us to think about, is if the busier we are, we probably need more sleep. And the more relaxed we are, we might need comparatively lesser sleep. So I think that's a very important point. And I love the way you simplified things, Alex. Is, do you wake up feeling rested and refreshed the next day? So that's something for all of us to be able to do a quick check when we wake up, is, do I feel good? Do I feel ready to take on the day? And that can be our barometer for figuring out, do we have enough sleep? So really good point, Alex. I know you have so much more to cover, so we'll get back to you on your third one.
Yeah. Okay. So the third one is, and that is a wide interpretation on my part, but it's the wise use of energy. So we have food, we have sleep, and the wise use of energy. So imagine an old-fashioned scale. And on the right side is the giving side. So everything that you do to give, be that going to work, taking care of the children, going shopping, driving your kids to soccer practice, taking care of your husband, cooking, all those things that you do to give and be there for other people. And then on the left side, imagine the receiving side. What do you do to receive? So for example, getting a massage, resting, having somebody else cook for you, hanging out with your girlfriends, going for a walk, meditation, going to a yoga class, you name it. So tell me, Sangeeta, for yourself, where do you think most people fall, or where do you fall? Which one's heavier?
I think my scale will, Alex, I think my scale is going to break, because I think I'm all on the giving side.
So it's like this, huh?
Yeah, because I think most of the time we are thinking of, okay, what can I achieve today? I can achieve this and I can achieve that. And, you know, even when we come back home from work, we are thinking of doing more work, either for work or for our family. And we wake up with that. So I would say, unfortunately, my scale is all on the giving side. But I see your point. And I think that's a very important one for us to think about. So what I hear you saying is that Alex's prescription is to take some time off for yourself. So
in a way, you know, and I want to give you a nice little thing to think about in terms of how you can divide your day into how much activity and how much rest you need. You know, I like to divide my day into 3 8-hour chunks. So 3 times 8 makes 24, right? So 3 8-hour chunks. So there's 8 hours for activity. So getting things done, like going to work, going shopping, doing all the major activities in the day. And then there's 8 hours for resting, whether that be sleeping or just deeply resting in some form of fashion. And then there's 8 hours for hanging out and enjoying yourself. So that could be like eating food, hanging out with your family, going for a walk, anything, getting a massage, hanging out with your children, playing with your children, things like that. So, but what happens now is, of course, many women, they run around from 7 a.m. until they get home till 8 p.m. and they never stop. And it is really in that non-stopping that you don't get anything accomplished anymore, because the mind cannot no longer focus. The mind can't focus for 13 hours straight. So really, when we slow down a little bit, we actually are able to accomplish more during those 8 hours of activity that I just described.
Wow, so you were saying that, so I like the way you separated out the day, you know, with the 3 8-hour chunks. And what you're saying is that actually we should be thinking of taking 8 hours for self-care and for focusing on our health and on replenishing ourselves. That's a lot of time to be spending on that, but I think it's an important one, and you brought up a good point that the more we can do that, the more we are going to achieve in the rest of the day and being able to be more productive. So Alex, can you give us some examples of what are the kind of things we can do in that 8 hours that are still restful and help us to take care of ourselves and our families?
Yeah, so, you know, I want to tie that back a little bit into sleep, because kind of like the wise use of energy kind of ties in really well with the sleep. So one of the things that I think are crucial is winding down earlier and spending some time to wind down before you go to bed. That is a wise use of your energy, because if we spend our evening on the computer until 10 p.m. or so, and just like working away, and then it's like, oh, I should be going to bed, it's late, and then we go to bed and we want to flip the switch of like, okay, body, now it's time to sleep, and then we wake up in the morning, okay, body, now it's time to get up, oh, body, it's time to go to sleep. It's like, it's almost like a light switch, but the body doesn't function like that. You know how the sun rises very slowly in the morning, and then it goes up into it comes noon, and then it slowly starts to go down again until comes sunset, and then it slowly disappears, and then it's gone for a little while, and then it comes back up. There's a cycle of the sun, right? And it slowly rises and it slowly sets. And so in the same way, the body does the same thing. Our energy system does the same thing. We slowly awaken, we live our day, we are really full of energy, and then our energy falls away and we're ready to go to bed. And so it's like in the evening time, if you could just spend, say, turn off, your computer, don't work so late at night, but kind of turn off your computer, if you will, at say 8 p.m. and take an hour or an hour and a half to just wind down and hang out with your family, play a game, and connect with your family, have a nice conversation, have a cup of tea, and take the evening time to wind down and really allow that rest or that heaviness of the evening to really envelope you, so that you can have a really good night's rest, and then you wake up in the morning more refreshed. And when you wake up more refreshed in the morning, you'll get a lot more done that next day. So winding down is really important. Now, I want to give you one really simple tip for what you can do to help you wind down. And it's simply taking sesame oil and put it on your feet. Rub it on your feet very nicely. It doesn't take very long, 3 minutes, 5 minutes maximum. Rub your feet with sesame oil. You may even want to put some essential oils in it that are really nicely calming to the nervous system. There's one that I love a lot. It's called vetiver, Vetiver. I like that one a lot. I recently gave it to one of my clients, just told her to rub her feet with sesame oil and vetiver oil. And she hadn't been able to sleep forever. And she came back the next time. I saw her a week later and she's like, oh my God, I slept every single night so well. And that allowed her to use her energy more wisely the next day because she was already recharged. And then she got so much more accomplished, and her food choices were better. Her energy expenditure was better. Everything in her day, the ripple effect was really great. So that's something really simple you can do that doesn't take very long at all.
Wow, I think that's a great, I'm so glad you talked about sleep, Alex, because like you said, sleep has become such an epidemic. Most of us don't sleep enough. And even when we are ready to sleep, then many of us struggle to sleep. And I think a huge reason for that problem is because we are not taking the time to wind down and get ready to sleep and give our body the chance to rest. And when we wake up, give our body the chance to pick up for the day, like, the rhythm of the nature. I think we forget that. And this is a good reminder for all our viewers, for all of us to remember about being in sync with nature, being in sync with your body, and taking that time to slow down as we transition from our busy, stressful, multitasking day to a restful time and get good night's rest. Really great tip, Alex.
Sorry. Yeah, I just want to add something because it just is so, one of the objections that I'm getting from women is when I ask them to go to bed a little bit earlier, wind down a little bit earlier, and then they say, well, when shall I get all my things done that I'm supposed to get done? And I said, well, that's a really good point. When should you get them done? I said, well, actually get them done in the morning rather than at night. Rather spend time in the evening winding down, getting a really good night's rest, so that you then can get up a little bit earlier the next day, say at 6 o'clock or at 5 o'clock even instead of at 6 o'clock, or whatever that time is. Get up a little bit earlier, spend some time for yourself. It doesn't have to be that long. We're not talking, if you're a busy career woman, you're not going to spend 2 hours doing, I don't know, some yoga practice, some kind of self-care practice, but just actually simply spending 20 minutes to get ready for your day. And then maybe get some work accomplished in the morning and then go about your work day. So what I'm saying, if you're using your energy wisely, don't shift the clock in a way that you're getting up late and going to bed late. Rather, I'm suggesting shift the clock earlier, go to bed earlier and get up earlier. And you will see that you're more in sync with the rhythm that nature already dictates, and it will make you feel more alive and awake.
I like that. I think that's a very, very good idea, Alex. I think because a lot of times we are tired and we are working till late. And what you're saying is that we still can do a lot, but you take the time to wind down, go to sleep, and get up early and start the day early. And you're absolutely right. That is so much in sync with the way nature functions. The sun rises up early morning, the birds are out and about early morning, and I think that's a good pattern for many of us to adopt. And all your tips about sleep really play well into that. I think as we wrap up, there were a couple of things that I just wanted to touch on. Was sometimes what are the objections that come up, right? One you touched on briefly was about time, that we don't have time. And I think secondly, sometimes it's the mindset, like we think we do not have time, right? So do you have any tips on how do we change the way we are perceiving things?
Yeah, the first thing I do have to touch on time a little bit more because it's such a huge issue. This is objection number one. Women say, oh my God, I already have so much on my plate. I can't possibly fit anything else in, right? Schedule is full, time's full. How can you fit anything else in? And quite frankly, it is really true. When linearly thinking, when the schedule is full, it's full, you know, there's no more time. But actually, time is expandable and it's contractible. So have you ever sat in meditation or just simply sat quietly for 5 minutes? Did you notice how slowly the time was passing versus when you were trying to get something accomplished in 5 minutes and you're like a little frantic and it's like the 5 minutes seem to be gone in no time? Have you ever noticed that? So that's
yes,
like,
very true.
that is like that thing where like when you're focused and when you're present and when you're slowing down, you actually get more accomplished. So slowing down equals getting more things accomplished. And I know this is an oxymoron for the mind, but it's really like when we are understanding that, it is so true. And the other piece to that is that time, if you don't have time, it is really a mission problem. The more clear you are about how you're going to spend your time at a certain point in time, the more you get accomplished. So when you're clear from 8 to 10, I'm doing that project, and then from 10 to 11, I'm doing that project, and from 12 to 1, I'm taking care of my kids, there's this sense of like this self-discipline. You will be able to really get the things done, everything that you set yourself out to do, if that makes any sense. So time management is actually a mission. It's a mission problem or a priority problem if you have a time management problem. And then you asked me about mindset. Now that's huge, no? I don't think, so when my clients come to me, they're not really aware that there's a mindset problem. They're really more aware of the time problem. But the mindset problem comes out as I'm working with them. And one of the major things is for women is that they think self-care is selfish. Oh, how can I possibly take time for myself? I have all these people to take care of. But really it goes back to this example of in the airplane. You know, when the oxygen masks come out, they always tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Well, why do they tell you that? It's because if you do it, put it on yourself first, you'll be able to take care of whoever else is sitting next to you. So in the same way, self-care is really your foundation of taking care of others. So it's like one of my clients had the realization, and she said, you know what, at first I thought going to the gym was selfish, but really what I realized, taking care of myself isn't selfish, it's self-love. And I think this is one of the key things that as women, we have to understand, that honoring our bodies matters more than anything. And it really ties back to what we talked about in the very beginning of when we started to talk about how can you do all the things that you need to be doing and still stay healthy. And it goes back to you just have to put health as one of your top priorities. And that's really the key, I think.
Wow, I think you covered so many key points that we should just be able to scribble it on our wall, or put it as a post-it on your phone or on your bathroom wall. I think one very, very key thing you talked about was self-care is self-love. Self-care is not selfish. And that's what energizes us to do all the things that we need to do, we want to do, we are driven to do. So I think that's a very important point for all of us to take away, is self-care is self-love. It's not selfish. That's what powers us to do all the things that we need to do. And I think the other very important point that you touched on was the time management aspect. that a lot of times we need, the more we can be disciplined and set our priorities and our mission of what we want to accomplish in the day, and having the discipline of chalking out our time in those different areas, the more we'll be able to accomplish and draw a boundary around our work and around the personal time, the 3 8-hour chunks that Alex talked about. Of course, I know none of this is easy. It requires a lot of day-to-day change for most of us, but I think these are really, really important points for us to remember and take home, so that we can accomplish all the things that we want to accomplish, and for it to be a practical and feasible and long-term solution for us. So very good points, Alex. Thank you for sharing such great insights. As we wrap up, do you have any last words to share with our viewers? And for our viewers, I would love to invite you to start asking your questions, because now we are going to give you a chance to ask Alex your questions on how you can accomplish good health for yourself.
Yeah, I would. You touched on a really nice point there, Sangeeta. You're right. There is a sense of a lot of things that we need to keep in mind, that we need to, we need to focus on the food, and we need to sleep better, and we need to use our energy more wisely. And all of that requires a bit of, initial effort to learn things. Like maybe you need to learn recipes, or maybe you need to learn a little bit more about how to take care of yourself. All of that initial effort, you have to put a little bit into it, but then when they become habits, those new things that you're integrated into your life become habits, it will be automated again. But until you get there, I often think that women get frustrated, or they're losing hope, or they get overwhelmed with all of the things. Oh my God, I don't know how to take care of myself. And I just want to encourage you that it is okay to get help and support. You don't have to do it alone. Because that is one of the mindsets that many women carry around. They think, oh my God, I'm Superwoman, and I've proven it in so many areas of my life. I can do this too on my own. But when that mindset is there, it just kind of holds you back. Because if we are alone, if you imagine, I have like a little stick here. Do I have anything? No, I don't. Oh, right here. So see this pen right here? That is you. And if you're trying to do something by yourself, well, I could break this pen really easily. But if you imagine that there's maybe somebody else by your side, so a second pen right here, or maybe like a group of people that you're surrounded with that are on the same journey, trying to have more self-care. If I had this bundle of sticks right here, it'd be really hard to break. So if you're surrounding yourself with somebody, with at least one other person that is supporting you and guiding you on the journey, I think it makes so much sense. You're having that much more strength to get good habits into your day-to-day life.
Wow, that's a really great point, Alex. So you're telling us that actually we invite our friends and our family to join us on this. So together we buddy up and we focus on health, and we built that strength as a community. I love that. I know that even when I think of exercising, it's so much easier for me to go work out when I'm planning to do it with a friend. So this is a really great way for us to build some of the healthy tips that you talked about.
Yeah, and that is one point, is getting together with friends and family, of course. But then also what I was thinking of, just getting guidance from somebody who has gone the path already, or who has a little bit more knowledge to support you. So I know it helps you. There's a lot of really good experts to help you on your way. I'm here. There's other practitioners who can help you really get healthy and inspired about your health journey, and give you the right things to do that will make the biggest difference for you. So that's two things there. Yes, getting other people involved, and also getting support from a practitioner.
Yeah, that's so well put, because I think there is so much information out there and there is so much that can be done, but having someone who is knowledgeable and experienced and reliable and can help to customize the plan just for you and help you to take those steps towards improving your health, towards better stress management, is so, so powerful. I know for myself, I used to struggle with it for many years until I found a practitioner who could understand me and my lifestyle and my way of thinking and help me to figure out a solution that works. And thank you so much for talking about Help C here, because that is our goal, is to enable you to achieve your best health. And we are very happy and excited that Alex is one of our practitioners on our platform. So Alex is always around to help you with achieving your goals. Yeah, thank you so much, Alex, for bringing that up. I now want to spend some time taking questions from our viewers. And we have one really good question here. How do we go about creating a new habit or changing an old one?
Oh, this is a big one. Yes. So actually for that one, how do we go about changing our habits? So, okay, so there's several ways I can answer this question. Well, first of all, you have to become really clear what you want. So you have to set an intention for yourself. So for example, the intention could be, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to be, I want to live my life with ease and grace, or whatever your intention is. But let's just take the weight example because it's an easy one, right? So your health goal would be to lose 20 pounds and to feel more light and joyful and alive in your body. Okay, so in order to achieve that, what many people do is they focus on this end goal of simply losing 20 pounds. But actually, that often gets very hard because we're using our willpower to just kind of get there, and I just want to lose the 20 pounds. But instead, what I'm suggesting, and it's not actually me, it's habit science that is suggesting this, that instead of focusing on this end goal, what we're doing instead is planting little seedlings around that end goal. So for example, eating an earlier, lighter dinner is really helpful for losing weight. So we're focusing on that. Drinking hot water throughout the day, really helpful to lose weight. Getting to bed earlier, super helpful to lose weight because whatever the reason. And so we're planting all of these little seedlings of new habits. And we are choosing such simple habits, we cannot resist them. They're so easy for us to do that we cannot say no to them. So for example, drinking hot water in the morning as you wake, is that really that hard? Well, it's probably not that hard, right? Eating a lighter dinner is maybe a little bit harder, but maybe doable, you know? So we're just choosing the little things, the little tiny shifts that we can make, and we're planting all of these seedlings that will ultimately grow into this bigger plant and ultimately into this huge tree, and this huge tree representing our health goal. So one way of changing our habits is simply focusing on creating these tiny habits and planting these little seedlings.
Oh, I love that. So you're actually thinking of, so what you're saying is actually, I love that, because I think it's a lot more practical. What you're saying is to think of little habits that support that bigger habit.
Yes.
And little habits that are more practical, like, getting up and drinking water or sipping hot water instead of cold water all day. And by accumulating those little habits, we're actually able to achieve our bigger goals, because we are doing those little habits consistently.
Yes.
I think that's a great tip. And in fact, that goes very well with a lot of the research that's there in habit formation about how if we start with small things, we can work on making bigger changes over time. And And the more we do it consistently, smaller things, like I think it takes about 3 weeks to form a habit, we can actually start to get there. So it's really wonderful point. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, and then can I add one other little thing here that's really important in terms of habit change? That's actually one of the key things of habit change, is that you set yourself a trigger to change that habit. So for example, if you're talking about the example of drinking hot water, what's your trigger to remember that you're going to have to drink hot water? Well, one of the triggers could be, oh, I'm waking up. So that's every morning you're going to wake up, hopefully. Otherwise, you're going to be dead and you don't need hot water anymore. But so the trigger is something that you do anyway already every day. And that reminds you to do that new thing. So in our example, waking up, we're already waking up every day. So the first thing we do is drink a glass of hot water. Make sense? So
Right.
if there's any habit that you want to introduce into your life, set yourself a trigger. So what could be another trigger? So for example, every day, every evening I come home, I'm going to lie down for 5 minutes and put my legs up the wall to relax and restore. So that coming home every evening is my trigger to do the new habit. Make sense?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, very much.
Yeah, and that is also, by the way, from habit changing science, no?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I very much like that. Can you talk more about how to eat better? I know we touched on that a little bit, because most of us have heard so much about what to eat, that given that many of us are in our offices or, even have lunch meetings, it's hard to take time out. If we are able to take some time out, can you give us a little more tips of how to eat or how to take those mini breaks during the day?
Okay, so are you talking about now how to eat or what to eat? What are you interested in?
How to eat.
How to eat, okay. So, simplest thing is if you could just take 10 minutes and step away from your desk, take your lunch and go somewhere, sit somewhere nice. If you have the ability to go outside, that would be wonderful. If you live in a place like we do, like in California, it's warm almost year round. And it's so nice to just step away from your desk, even if you don't think you have the time. So, most of us, I would probably assume that most of us don't have anything super pressing happening. I mean, let me put this in relation. If you're working in a profession, let's say you are an emergency room doctor. Of course, you can't go out if there's somebody coming in and they're about to die, okay? But if you're having an email to answer, well, that email or that person behind the email that's waiting for your answer, really, they can't wait 15 minutes. Ask yourself that question, it's like, is it really a life or death experience here if I go out and take 10 minutes for my meal, So getting a little bit more in relationship to, not in relationship, but seeing things more relative, So that would be one thing. If you are finding yourself in a lunch meeting and frequently, and you really, that's part of your job and you can't get out of that, eat something that is very easy to digest. So for example, soups are relatively easy to digest because they're already in liquid form. The body doesn't have to work very hard to break it down, not as hard as it would be to eat a piece of meat, for example. So have your food choices be rather simple, because when you're having an intense lunch meeting with somebody and you're talking, again, that attention is going away from your food. And when you're eating something simple, at least the body doesn't have to work so hard to digest your food.
Yeah, I think that's some really practical, good tips. I think about trying to get away. We don't have to do everything right now. Like you talked about email, we can come back and after 15 minutes or 20 minutes, we can respond and we'll be much more rested to do a better job with the email or with the work that that we're coming back to. And I really like your idea about eating lighter food if we can't get away. That actually relates to our next question, Alex, which is energy boosting foods for long day. You know, there are times when we have really long days. We start early morning and we are going on past our meal time or our snack time. Do you have suggestions of energy boosting foods that will help us to sustain that long day, or that we can carry and keep with us when the day gets long?
Of course, yeah, always eating very simple snacks, healthy snacks, like simply just having a little bit of fruit in your bag, banana or an apple is of course always good. But what you could also do is, when you eat breakfast at home, make yourself a smoothie and carry that with you as a quick snack, and put maybe maca powder in it, MACA, maca powder. And that is a very nice energy boosting superfood, what we call superfood. You could put spirulina in that smoothie, or mesquite powder. All of those are superfoods that have a lot of energy boosting qualities. So that could be a nice one, so that you don't have to rely on coffee, you know. The other thing, instead of eating, if you're running around and you're feeling yourself being fatigued, actually just excusing yourself and going into the women's bathroom, taking a few deep breaths, and maybe hanging your head upside down, you know, just forward folding a little bit to get some energy flow into your head. And you just do that for a couple minutes, you know. I mean, we all have to go to the bathroom, so it's nothing unusual, right? You don't have to like make up some story. You just go into the bathroom real quick for a couple of minutes, take a few deep breaths, hang your head forward, upside down, get some blood rushing into your head, and that will give you a lot of energy too, without actually having to eat food.
Oh, I like that. So what you're saying is actually, instead of using food as a way to gain energy, we can do other things. And I like the idea of going to the, you know, of relating the bathroom, where that's something we can do easily. You know, it's not strange, it's not weird. We all need to take bio breaks, and that's the way we clean our body.
I love that. Bio breaks. I know.
And now it's a good way for us to refresh our mind and clean our minds. You know, who said you cannot do that there? So I like it. That's great, Alex. That brings me to, actually, I think maybe even more tips in this area, because one question that's come up is, you know, after we have a long and stressful day, we find ourselves snacking and eating more unhealthy food, or you know, just feeling so awake and amped up when it should actually be a time to ramp down. Do you have any tips or suggestions for that?
So I heard you say that you are craving food, or not you, but one is craving food at the end of the day, right? You know what I find, like 9 out of 10 times, why women are craving, or why people are craving food, is actually two things. One, it could be thirst, because actually the brain, where the place where the brain recognizes hunger is the same where the brain recognizes thirst. And so sometimes we are actually not really aware. Are we actually hungry, or are we thirsty? So the first thing for food cravings is drink a big glass of water, wait 15 minutes. And if you're still craving the food, you were probably hungry. But probably most of the time, it will just be thirst. That's one thing. The second thing is, if you crave food, especially in the evening, and if you tend to eat a really big dinner because you just come home starving, it's probably because you haven't eaten properly throughout the day. Means like, if you eat a proper breakfast and you eat a proper lunch, then you should be hungry for dinner, but you shouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm starving, I'm craving food, whatever, give me whatever and I will eat it. That should not happen. So if you teach your body and if you pay attention to eating 3 meals a day, that will take care of 8 out of 10 food cravings. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So true. Yeah. I think the more we can focus on, eating on time and being more connected to our body about why we are feeling what we are feeling.
Yeah.
And if we have been honoring ourselves and the activities like taking time to eat or eating a good healthy food that'll actually give us energy, we probably will have less cravings in the evening. What about some other tips other than food? Because sometimes I think it's just the days are long and you're handling so many things in the day and multitasking, right? So we can be amped up. I know there are times that happens to me.
Oh, you mean like how to wind down in the evening?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, the one thing that I found, when I was first stepping into the healing field, I was working in an office, right, all day. So I was having a full-time job in an office. And then in the evening, I would be doing body work. I would teach yoga, or I had really 2 full-time jobs for about 5 years. And the only way I could really sustain myself was by doing simple things like, when I came home from the office, I just laid down for 5 or 10 minutes on my back and put my feet up the wall. It's called legs up the wall. It's a very simple yoga practice. And if you don't like yoga, just don't even think about it as yoga practice. Just lie on your back, put your feet up the wall for 5 or 10 minutes. And that is incredibly, incredibly rejuvenating to the mind and to the energy system. And it's very calming to the nervous system. So it's sedating. It's putting you it's like this big exhale. So that helped me a ton to actually transition from my office work then to my body work that I was doing in the evening. And I worked like 80 hours at times, for quite some years. The other thing that's really helpful, and excuse me for a second. The other thing that's really helpful is taking a bath. That's my most favorite because I'm also a career woman in a way, right? I'm building my business and I also have a lot going on. So what I find for myself when my mind gets anxious and overwhelmed and worried, and there's like this lightness, anxiety, worry, and fear and all those emotions, they're very light. We're bringing in the heaviness from the water. And so by taking a bath, you're just counteracting that craziness in what that's going on in your head. And again, it doesn't have to take that long. You don't have to make it an hour-long drawn-out bath. You can if you want, of course. But you can also make it a relatively quick affair of 10 or 15 minutes, where you're just allowing the water to give you the relaxation and the softness that we're missing so much in our society, And if you're a woman who goes and goes and goes and goes, it's kind of that dry, rough, getting things done, activity sort of energy. And the water is exactly the opposite, right? The water is the soft and the smooth and the enveloping and the nourishing. Exactly the opposite to our intense lifestyle. So taking a bath is another really good one.
Oh, I love those. That feels like vacation right here at home, just being able to put my feet up or take a bath. I mean, I think of shower and, quick 5-minute showers, but you're very right. I mean, just in the evening, being able to take a bath, even if it's for a few minutes, oh gosh, with some Epsom salts, just the thought of it, I feel relaxed.
Yeah, and then put some essential oils like eucalyptus or lemon to uplift your energy. Eucalyptus for breathing better, lavender for relaxation. Mm-hmm. I mean, how much easier and better can it be? You don't even have to do much for it. You can just lie there and soak in the water.
Oh, that sounds so yummy. Yeah, so wonderful and so practical, so easy, something we can do, even if, it's 9:00 at night. It's very much possible to do that. Oh, Alex, you have such great tips. I know it's getting late, but I want to ask you one final question because this is something that many of us face is, a lot of times, or often, we get up, in the middle of the night, or wake up early. We did a series a while ago on sleep. So if you are one of the audience who feels that, I would suggest go back and, in fact, go back and watch the series on sleep, because we discussed many tips. But here, Alex, would you be able to share some tips about, when your mind is buzzing and, as a busy woman, you're kind of making those lists in your head and waking up with that? What can we do to rest, and what can we do to fall back asleep?
Yeah. So one of the things, if your mind is buzzing and you're planning in your head about what's coming, I think that the best thing ever is just to take out a piece of paper and write it down, so you get it out of your head and onto paper, so that your mind can actually let go of it. So if you have a list running, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do that, I got to do that, and that one too, then your mind will keep on rotating around this and keep trying to remember that list. But if you put it on a piece of paper, the mind can say, oh, actually it's on that piece of paper now, I can let go of that. So that would be the first step, I say, when that happens. The second step, or a second suggestion, I guess, is to simply then lie in bed, even though you can't sleep, and repeat I don't want to repeat a phrase. I'm going to just call it a phrase. I think many people probably know the word mantra by now. I think it's pretty assimilated into the American language now. But it's a mantra is simply a very simple phrase that you repeat over and over again. And it could be something like your intention: I am healthy and I'm whole. I'm healthy and I'm whole. I'm healthy, I'm whole. I'm healthy, I'm whole. And you just continue to recite that to yourself. And that will simply put you to sleep. It's sort of like that old thing where you're like counting sheep. Kind of like that, but It works better than that. I mean, the counting sheep part never worked for me, but it is similar to that. And quite frankly, I mean, anyway, so that has worked really well for myself and for my clients in the past. So that's a really good one. And then going back to the earlier tip that we talked about with the sesame oil and the vetiver essential oil on your feet. If you truly can't fall asleep anymore and you're just like, oh my God, it's like really spending some time rubbing your feet with that stuff, putting some old socks on so you don't stain your bed, and go back to bed and, okay. Letting that heaviness of the vetiver and the oil put you back to sleep. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so practical. Actually, I think I can say I pretty much do all of them, Alex, that you've talked about. And I think being able to write that list down, if it's circling in your head, it's so empowering, because you're like, okay, and tomorrow when I'm fresh and I wake up, I know these are the things that I need to be thinking about. So true. And, the mantra that you talked about and the vetiver oil, it took me a while to accept using those. I always thought, whether they work or not. So I was hesitant for a while, but the more I started using it, the more I found how effective they were. So wonderful. Such great tips. It's always carry vetiver oil actually with me most of the time. Alex, you're so amazing. For every question that I had and every question that our audience had, you had a really wonderful practical solution for us. Great advice, I think, for all of us. So ladies, let's remember the main things we learned today. Remember how important it is to take care of our health so that we can have good, healthy bodies and healthy minds. We can achieve all the things we want to achieve on a long-term basis. And I want to summarize the three main things that Alex talked about food, sleep, and wise use of energy. So remember that as you go about your day-to-day. And when it comes to food, remember, again, there were three things: what you eat, how you eat, and how well you digest. Really wonderful talk, Alex. Really practical advice. We are so lucky that you joined us today. We all enjoyed it. I'm sure our audience did. And we are very happy that you are on our platform. So anyone who's looking for advice and looking for help can find you and be able to use it as a way to empower their health. So thank you everyone for attending, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks. Have a good night and rest well.
Bye-bye.